The Valkyrian station filled the view screen like a small moon made of metal and light. Defense platforms surrounded it, bristling with weapons. A fleet of 20 warships moved into position to intercept the corvette. To any normal attack force, it would have been suicide to approach, but the Unbroken were not normal. "Bora, how long until you can access their systems?" Taesung asked. "Give me 2 minutes once we're in range." Her eyes were closed, her fingers dancing over controls. She was operating more with her mind than her hands. Their security is strong, but it's designed to stop external hacking. They won't expect someone to interface directly with their computer core. Sang Wook, who could see electromagnetic radiation, called out warnings. "Weapons platforms charging. Targeting solutions locked. 30 seconds to firing range." "Hyunwoo, are you ready?" Taesung looked at the young man. Hyunwoo nodded, though fear was clear on his face. "I'll hit them with everything I have. Just tell me when." Taesung closed his eyes and reached out with his abilities. He could feel the station's power grid, a massive network of energy flowing through its systems. He traced the connections to the weapons platforms, finding their generators. Beside him, he felt Ji-won doing the same, her presence in the digital realm brushing against his. "Now," he shouted. Hyunwoo thrust his hands forward and a wave of electromagnetic energy exploded from the corvette. It was not as controlled as Taesung's abilities, more like a hammer than a scalpel. But it did not need to be precise. The pulse washed over the weapons platforms, overloading their targeting computers. At the same moment, Taesung and Ji-won grabbed the platform's power systems and crushed them. Generator after generator failed, leaving the platforms dead in space. The warships, however, were still operational. They opened fire, sending bolts of superheated plasma toward the corvette. Bora threw the ship into evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible, but she was not flying by instruments anymore. She could feel the ship as an extension of herself. "I'm in their system," she announced. "Accessing detention levels." "Found them. 300 humans in cells on deck 47. Releasing the locks now." On the station, alarms shrieked as cell doors opened. 300 confused and frightened humans stumbled into corridors, not understanding what was happening. Through Bora's connection to the station, Taesung could see them through security cameras. "We need to get them to the docking bays," Ji-won said. "But the Valkyrians are flooding those corridors with guards. Then we give them a clear path." Taesung reached deeper into the station's systems. He found the environmental controls and started sealing blast doors throughout the facility, creating a maze that led the prisoners exactly where they needed to go while blocking the guards. But High Inquisitor Velmoth was not sitting idle. Through the communication system, his voice boomed across the station. "Foolish humans, you think your small tricks can stop us? We have studied your abilities. We know their limits, and we have prepared for this." Something changed on the station. Taesung felt it immediately. A new power source activated, one he had not sensed before. It was massive, pulsing with energy that felt wrong, twisted. "What is that?" Ji-won gasped. She felt it too. The answer came from an unexpected source. Crixnell's voice cut through the confusion. "Taesung, listen to me. Velmoth has activated the Null Engine. It is a prototype weapon designed to disrupt psychic abilities. It will fry your neural pathways. You must get away from the station now." But they could not leave. The 300 prisoners were still inside, still making their way toward the docking bays. If the Unbroken fled now, those people would be captured again, or killed. "How long until it fires?" Taesung demanded. 3 minutes. "Perhaps less. Please, you must leave. I cannot bear to see more humans die because of our mistakes." Taesung looked at the other Unbroken. They were exhausted, their faces pale from the effort of using their abilities. But none of them suggested running. They had come to save people. They would not abandon them now. "Bora, how many ships are in those docking bays?" 5 cargo haulers. "Not armed, but they can carry everyone if we pack them tight. Then that's our mission. Get those people onto those ships." Taesung turned to the others. "I need everyone to lend me their strength, like we did on the research vessel. All of us working together." The Unbroken joined hands, forming a chain of connection. Taesung felt their abilities flowing into him, amplifying his own. It was overwhelming, like trying to hold lightning in his bare hands. But he directed it, focused it, shaped it into what he needed. He reached into the Null Engine. The weapon was complex, built with technology he barely understood. But at its core, it was just another machine. And machines could be broken. The engine fought him. It was designed to resist exactly this kind of interference. Taesung pushed harder, pouring more power into the attack. He felt his nose bleeding, felt his body trembling with the strain. The other unbroken were gasping, some falling to their knees as the effort drained them. "Taesung, stop," Jiwon pleaded. "You'll kill yourself." "Not yet," he gritted out. Almost there, he found it. A weak point in the engine's containment system. If he could just reach a little further, push a little harder. The engine exploded. The blast was not physical but psychic, a wave of disrupting energy that washed over everyone with abilities. The unbroken screamed as the energy hit them. For a moment, Taesung thought they had failed, thought the engine had done exactly what it was designed for. But they had not been broken before. They would not break now. The disrupting energy crashed against them like waves against a cliff, and like that cliff they endured. Their abilities flickered and dimmed but did not die. The engine's power faded and the unbroken were still standing. "Impossible." Velmoth's voice was filled with disbelief. "The null engine should have destroyed you." "You keep saying things are impossible," Taesung replied, his voice hoarse. "Maybe you should stop underestimating humans." Through Bora's connection, they watched the prisoners reach the docking bays. The humans piled into the cargo haulers, cramming far more people than the ships were designed to carry. But they made it work, because that was what humans did. The haulers launched, engines straining under the weight. The Unbroken's corvette moved to escort them. Positioning itself between the escaping ships and the Valkyrian warships. "They're preparing to fire on the haulers," Sang-wook warned. But before the warships could shoot, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel, their hulls painted with the insignia of the Terran Defense Fleet. Admiral Soo-jin had arrived with 30 warships. Her voice boomed across all frequencies. "This is Admiral Soo-jin of the Terran Coalition. All Valkyrian forces stand down immediately. You are in violation of the Galactic Accords by conducting illegal experiments on sentient beings. Release all human prisoners and surrender for tribunal." The Valkyrian fleet hesitated. They were outnumbered now, and their station's defenses were crippled. Slowly they began to power down their weapons. Velmoth's final transmission was filled with cold fury. "This is not over, humans. You have become something that threatens the order of the galaxy. Others will see what we see. They will fear you. And fear leads to war." "Maybe," Taesung replied. "Or maybe they'll learn not to try to break us." The cargo haulers docked with the Terran ships. 300 rescued humans met 323 who had escaped before. Together they were over 600. 600 humans who had survived what should have destroyed them. Admiral Soo-jin's fleet escorted them back to Terran space. The journey took 5 days, and during that time Taesung watched more of the rescued humans begin to manifest abilities. The forced neural disruption the Valkyrians had planned to use on them had been partially administered before the rescue. Now those humans were awakening too. By the time they reached Earth, there were 200 unbroken. Taesung stood in the Admiral's ready room, along with Jiwon, Bo-ra, and Yunwoo. Soo-jin looked at them with an expression mixing awe and concern. "The government wants to study you," she said bluntly. "They want to understand these abilities, possibly replicate them. They're calling it the greatest leap in human evolution since we learned to use tools." "We're not lab experiments," Jiwon said sharply. "I know, and I've told them that. You're people who've been through hell and came out changed. You deserve respect, not more testing." Soo-jin leaned forward. "But the galaxy has changed. The Valkyrian Empire is collapsing. When word spread about what they did, about what happened to you, a dozen subjugated species rose up in rebellion. The Empire is fragmenting into warlord territories." "That's not our fault," Taesung said. "No, but it is the reality we face. And there's more. Other species have heard about the Unbroken. Some are afraid, some are curious. Some want to kill you before you become a threat. Others want to capture you and replicate what the Valkyrians did." Soo-jin pulled up a star map. "The galaxy is watching humanity now, watching to see what we do with power that we didn't ask for but have anyway." Taesung looked at his companions. They had all been ordinary people once. A pilot, a scientist, an engineer, a student. The Valkyrians had tried to break them to find humanity's weakness. Instead, they had revealed. Write part 1 of 5. All of them one by one of 1,400 words each in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and don't create more chapters, headings or parts numbers in each part. Basic English and don't create more chapters, headings or parts numbers in each part. The stars above Earth had never seemed so crowded. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Silent Hunter, watching the display screen with steady eyes. 5,000 alien warships had just entered the solar system. They were massive, each one 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleship. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that seemed to drink in the starlight. "Sir, incoming transmission on all channels," Lieutenant Hannah said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, her face pale but calm. The main screen flickered to life. A creature appeared, towering and covered in thick armor plating. Its 4 eyes burned like hot coals. This was Commander Thulrek of the Vectari Dominion. "Humans of Earth," the alien's voice boomed through the bridge. "I am Commander Thulrek. We have conquered 200 worlds across this galaxy. Your primitive planet is now ours. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Resistance will result in your extinction. Respond now or face destruction." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Deho waited, counting the seconds. He knew every ship in Earth's fleet was receiving the same message. He knew the people on Earth below were watching in fear. He knew the colonies on Mars and Luna were holding their breath. "What are your orders, Captain?" Hannah asked quietly. "We wait," Deho replied. No response. "Radio silence across all channels." Hannah nodded and sent the confirmation to Earth Command. Within minutes, every human ship, station, and colony went dark. No transmissions. No responses. Nothing but silence on Earth. Admiral Taemin sat in the command center, buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The screens around him showed the alien fleet spreading out like a net around Earth's orbit. His senior officers watched him, waiting for orders. "Admiral, the aliens are waiting for our response," one officer said nervously. "Then let them wait," Taemin replied calmly. He pressed a button on his console. "Activate Protocol Ragnarok. Send the orders through encrypted channels only." Across the solar system, hidden bases received the signal. On Luna, Engineer Kyung-soo watched his screen light up with the activation code he had been waiting for. He was deep inside a crater on the moon's dark side, surrounded by weapons that had been built in secret over the past 15 years. "Finally," Kyung-soo whispered. He began the power-up sequence for the railgun batteries. Massive weapons hidden beneath false lunar rock began to hum with energy. There were 300 such installations across the moon, each one capable of firing tungsten rods at incredible speeds. On Mars, similar preparations were underway. In the asteroid belt, automated platforms came online. In Earth's orbit, what looked like ordinary satellites began to shift and reconfigure. Back on the Vectari flagship, Commander Thulrek watched the human silence with growing amusement. "They are terrified," he said to his second-in-command. "Look at them, hiding in their primitive ships. 200 species have faced our fleet. 200 species have fallen. These humans think they can resist? They cannot even find the courage to respond." "Perhaps they are preparing a defense, Commander," the second-in-command suggested. Thulrek's laugh was like grinding stones. "Defense? What defense could they possibly have? Our scouts report their technology is centuries behind ours. Their weapons are crude. Their ships are slow. No, they are simply frozen with fear. It makes the conquest easier." The Vectari fleet began to move forward, advancing toward Earth with the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. They had fought species with energy shields, with plasma cannons, with antimatter bombs. They had seen every type of weapon the galaxy had to offer. What could these humans possibly have that would surprise them? Captain Deho received new orders on his private console. He read them twice, then allowed himself a small smile. "Hannah, plot a course to these coordinates," he said, sending the data to her station. "Silent running. No emissions. We're heading to the asteroid belt." "The asteroid belt, sir? That will take us away from Earth." "Trust me," Deho replied. "We'll be exactly where we need to be." The Silent Hunter turned silently in space, its special coating absorbing all radiation and making it nearly invisible. It slipped away from Earth's orbit, heading into the darkness. Deho knew that 20 other stealth frigates were doing the same thing, all moving to positions the enemy would never expect. Hours passed. The Vectari fleet continued its advance. Their long-range scanners detected the human ships near Earth, but they seemed weak and few in number. The humans had perhaps 200 vessels total. Against 5,000, it was laughable. On Earth, Dr. Minji watched from the weapons research facility. She had spent 10 years developing the systems that were about to be tested. Her hands were steady as she monitored the power levels of the orbital platforms. Everything was ready. Everything was waiting for the right moment. "They're still coming," her assistant said. "Don't they suspect anything?" "Why would they?" Minji replied. "They think they know what human weapons look like. They think they've seen everything. They're wrong." Admiral Taman watched the alien fleet on his displays. They were entering the perfect position, spreading out to encircle Earth completely. In their arrogance, they had moved exactly where he wanted them. It was time. "All stations, this is Admiral Taman," he said into the secure channel. "Final countdown begins now. Weapons free in 60 seconds. Across the moon, Kyung-Soo's hands moved over his controls. The railguns were fully charged. The targeting computers had locked onto their assigned vessels. He looked at the countdown on his screen. 50 seconds, 40 seconds, 30 seconds. On the Vektari flagship, Thulrek was preparing his final ultimatum to the humans when his sensor officer suddenly stiffened. "Commander, I'm detecting massive power spikes across the moon's surface. Multiple locations. I don't understand what—" "Defensive weapons, no doubt," Thulrek said dismissively. Their final desperate attempt. "It will change nothing." The countdown reached 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Captain Daeho reached the asteroid belt and brought his ship to a complete stop, hiding among the rocks. His crew was silent, watching their own countdown. 3, 2, 1. The moon erupted with light. 300 railguns fired simultaneously, and the silence of space was broken by humanity's first response. But it was not a response of words. It was a response of weapons, of strategy, of patience finally rewarded. The tungsten rods screamed through space at 10% the speed of light. In the 3 seconds it took them to reach the Vektari fleet, Commander Thulrek realized that the silence had never been about fear. It had been about waiting for the perfect shot. The first rod struck home, and the alien armada's laughter died in fire and metal. The tungsten rods hit the Vektari fleet like the fist of an angry god. Each rod was just a simple cylinder of metal, but traveling at 10% light speed. Each one carried the energy of a nuclear bomb. The alien energy shields, designed to deflect lasers and plasma, might as well have been made of paper. The first Vektari battleship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, massive and imposing. The next moment it was a cloud of superheated gas expanding in all directions. Then another ship vanished. Then 10 more. Then 100. Commander Thulrek stared at his displays in disbelief. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. In 30 seconds, 400 of his ships had been destroyed. 400 vessels that had conquered worlds reduced to nothing by primitive kinetic weapons. "Shields are useless," his sensor officer screamed. "The projectiles are physical mass, not energy. Our shields can't stop them." "Evasive maneuvers," Thulrek roared. "All ships scatter formation." But the Vektari fleet was designed for overwhelming attacks, not evasion. Their ships were large, powerful, and slow. They began to turn, but the second wave of railgun fire was already on its way. On Luna, Engineer Kyung-Soo was laughing. He had spent 3 years installing these weapons, hiding them in fake mining equipment, disguising power conduits as communication cables. The Vektari scouts had looked right at them and seen nothing suspicious. "Reload," he shouted to his team. "Target the ships trying to retreat. Don't let them regroup." The railguns fired again. More alien ships died. The vacuum of space was filling with debris, with frozen atmosphere, with the bodies of aliens who had thought themselves invincible. In Earth's orbit, the second part of the trap activated. What the Vektari had thought were simple satellites suddenly opened like metal flowers. Inside each one was a tungsten rod, suspended in an electromagnetic launcher. Thousands of these orbital platforms fired simultaneously, adding to the storm of metal already tearing through the alien fleet. Dr. Minji watched the results on her screen. Her voice was calm as she spoke into her communicator. Orbital platforms performing as expected. Kinetic penetration is 100% effective against Vektari shield technology. Proceeding to Phase 2. Admiral Taemin nodded from his command center. "Execute Phase 2. Release the swarm." Across Earth's orbital space, launch bays opened on what had appeared to be civilian stations. Thousands of small attack craft poured out like angry insects. Each craft was barely 10 meters long, crewed by a single pilot. They carried no shields, no heavy armor, but each one was fast, maneuverable, and armed with nuclear-tipped missiles. Pilot Sung Ho was in the first wave. His fighter was so small that the Vectari sensors barely registered it as a threat. He grinned as he pushed his throttle forward, accelerating to speeds that would have killed most alien species. Humans had evolved in Earth's gravity, one of the strongest gravities of any inhabited world. What crushed other species only made humans uncomfortable. "This is Sung Ho to all wings," he called over the radio. "Let's show these aliens what real flying looks like." His fighter twisted and dove between pieces of debris, moving in patterns no computer could predict because they came from instinct and years of training. The Vectari point defense systems tried to target him but couldn't track his irregular movements. Sung Ho locked onto a Vectari cruiser and fired. His missile streaked forward and he was already turning away before it hit. The nuclear warhead detonated against the cruiser's hull. Without shields to stop kinetic weapons, the aliens had diverted all power to engines and weapons. The explosion tore the cruiser in half. All across the battlefield, the human fighters were doing the same thing. They were too small, too fast, too unpredictable. The Vectari had fought enemies with powerful battleships and organized fleet tactics. They had never fought enemies who turned individual pilots into weapons of mass destruction. Commander Thulrek tried to focus his forces on the human fighters, but then the third surprise hit him. His communication systems went insane. Every screen on the bridge showed random data. Orders he sent to his fleet were changed in transmission. Reports from his ships contradicted each other. His entire command network was collapsing. On Earth, Specialist Jiwoo sat in a dark room filled with computers. Her fingers flew across multiple keyboards simultaneously. She had spent the last hour breaking every encryption code the Vectari used. Now she was inside their network, turning it against them. Ship designate VT-447. "You are ordered to attack ship VT-448, she transmitted, perfectly mimicking a Vectari command code. She watched with satisfaction as two alien ships opened fire on each other. She sent false reports of human ships appearing in sectors that were empty. She rerouted power from weapons to life support on dozens of vessels. She locked navigational systems and sent ships spinning off course. The Vectari were fighting two enemies now, humanity and their own technology. From his hiding place in the asteroid belt, Captain Dae-ho watched the chaos unfold. His sensors showed the Vectari fleet fragmenting, confused, desperate. It was time for the Silent Hunter to join the fight. "All stealth frigates, this is Dae-ho. Begin attack run. Hit and fade tactics. Make them fear the dark." His ship emerged from the asteroids like a ghost, its stealth coating making it nearly invisible. The Silent Hunter came up behind a Vectari destroyer and fired a full spread of missiles before vanishing back into the darkness. The destroyer exploded and the nearby Vectari ship spun around, trying to find the attacker. But the Silent Hunter was already gone, repositioning for another strike. 20 other stealth frigates were doing the same thing. They appeared from nowhere, killed and disappeared. The Vectari sensors couldn't track them. It was like fighting phantoms, and it was breaking the alien formation. Lieutenant Hana monitored the enemy movements from her station on the Silent Hunter. "Sir, they're trying to regroup near Sector 7. Looks like they want to make a push toward Earth." Dae-ho nodded. "Let Admiral Taman know. And prepare our next attack run." On Earth, Commander Yuna received the warning. She commanded the defensive fleet stationed directly above the planet. Her ships were older, less advanced than the stealth frigates, but she had good crews and they were fighting for their home. "All ships form up," she ordered. "They want to reach Earth? They'll have to go through us." Her fleet of 40 ships positioned themselves between the regrouping Vectari force and Earth. It looked like a suicide mission. The Vectari had 300 ships heading their way, but Yuna was smiling, because she knew what the Vectari didn't. This was another trap. The Vectari ships accelerated toward Earth, toward Yuna's small fleet. They were angry now, desperate to strike back at the humans who had bloodied them so badly. They wanted revenge. They flew right into the minefield. The mines had been deployed weeks ago, disguised as orbital debris. Each one was simple: a proximity sensor and a large explosive. Nothing fancy, nothing high-tech, just thousands of bombs waiting patiently in the dark. The first Vectari ship triggered a mine. The explosion set off 10 more. Those explosions triggered 100 more. In seconds, the entire sector was a chain reaction of fire and death. Ships that survived the blast were torn apart by shrapnel. The Vectari charge became a rout. Commander Yuna watched 300 enemy ships reduced to less than 50 in under a minute. All ships advance. Destroy survivors. Her fleet moved forward, firing everything they had. The surviving Vectari ships, damaged and disoriented, could barely fight back. One by one, they died. On the Vectari flagship, Commander Thulrek stared at the tactical display. He had arrived with 5,000 ships. Now he had less than 4,000. The humans had been silent for 72 hours, and in the first 30 minutes of battle, they had destroyed a fifth of his fleet. "Send for reinforcements," he said quietly. "Send every ship we have, and tell them to be careful. These humans are not primitives. They are something else entirely." His second-in-command hesitated. "What should we tell the council, Commander? How do we explain this?" Thulrek's eyes burned with rage and something else, something that looked like fear. "Tell them we underestimated Earth. Tell them these humans fight like nothing we've ever seen. And tell them to hurry, before there's nothing left of us to reinforce." The battle had been raging for 6 hours. Space around Earth was a graveyard of broken ships and debris fields that stretched for thousands of kilometers. The Vectari fleet had been hurt badly, but they were far from defeated. And now reinforcements were coming. Captain Deho watched the sensor readings on the Silent Hunter's main display. 3,000 new ships had just entered the solar system. The Vectari Dominion was bringing everything they had to crush Earth. His communication panel blinked with an incoming message from Admiral Taman. "All ships, this is Admiral Taman. The enemy reinforcements have arrived. Execute withdrawal plan Delta. Fall back to designated positions. Make them think they're winning." Deho smiled grimly. Even now, even with alien reinforcements, Earth was still playing the long game. "You heard the Admiral," he said to his crew. "Take us out toward Jupiter, and make sure they see us retreat." The Silent Hunter powered up its main engines, abandoning its stealth mode. Across the battlefield, other human ships did the same. They fired their weapons desperately, then turned and fled toward the outer solar system. It looked like a rout. It looked like Earth's defense was breaking. Commander Thulrek, aboard his damaged flagship, felt hope for the first time in hours. "They're running! All ships, pursue! Don't let them escape." The Vectari fleet, now numbering over 6,000 ships, gave chase. They were angry. They had lost friends, lost pride, lost the certainty of easy victory. Now they wanted revenge, and the fleeing human ships offered it to them. On Earth, Admiral Taman watched the enemy fleet follow his ships exactly as planned. He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Dr. Jae Sung. Tell him it's time." In a laboratory on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, scientist Jae Sung received the message. He looked at his team, gathered around the control console. "Gentlemen, ladies, we've spent 2 years on this project. Everyone said we were crazy. Let's prove them right." His fingers moved across the controls, activating a system that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. For the past year, automated ships had been positioning what looked like random debris in a careful pattern between Mars and Jupiter. Asteroids, old ship parts, broken satellites, all of it drifting in what appeared to be natural orbits. But it wasn't debris. It was a weapon. Captain Deho led the Vectari fleet deeper into the outer solar system. His sensors showed them getting closer to Jupiter's orbit. Lieutenant Hana counted down the distance. 50,000 kilometers to the activation zone. 40,000, 30,000. "Keep them interested," Deho said. "Fire a few shots. Miss badly, make them think they're about to catch us." The Silent Hunter fired its rear guns. The shots went wide, and the Vectari ships surged forward, sensing victory. They were so focused on the retreating humans that they didn't pay attention to the debris field they were entering. 10,000 kilometers, Hana reported. "We're in the zone." Deho opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, emergency acceleration. Maximum burn. Get clear now." The human ship suddenly exploded forward with speed the Vectari hadn't known they possessed. The aliens, caught by surprise, couldn't match the acceleration. They fell behind, frustrated, pushing their own engines harder to keep up. On Europa, Dr. Jae Sung pressed the activation button. Every piece of debris in the field contained a simple proximity mine. When one detected a ship within range, it exploded. The explosion triggered the mines nearby. Those explosions triggered more mines. Within seconds, millions of cubic kilometers of space became a storm of fire. The Vectari fleet flew straight into it at full speed. Ships on the front line simply vanished in the overlapping explosions. Those behind them tried to stop, to turn, but they had too much momentum. They crashed into the expanding debris field, into each other, into the continuing chain of explosions. Commander Thulrek screamed orders that no one could hear over the chaos. His fleet was dying, burning, breaking apart. 800 ships destroyed in minutes. Another 300 damaged beyond repair. The careful formation he'd maintained was now a scattered mess of crippled vessels. Withdraw. All ships withdraw. He finally managed to transmit, but the surviving Vectory ships found that withdrawing was harder than advancing. The mines had created a barrier of debris moving at high speeds. Every direction they turned, there was danger. Ships that tried to escape were holed by shrapnel. Others collided with unseen obstacles. From a safe distance, Captain Deho watched the destruction. "That's for everyone on Luna Station," he said quietly, remembering the civilian facility the Vectari had threatened to destroy in their opening message. But the battle wasn't over. The Vectari still had over 4,000 functional ships. They were hurt, disorganized, and frightened, but still dangerous. And Earth's defense fleet had lost ships too. The cost was mounting. On Earth, Dr. Minji was working on a different problem. She had been analyzing the Vectari communication system, trying to find a weakness. What she discovered was both brilliant and terrifying. "Admiral, I found something," she reported to Taman. "The Vectari use quantum entanglement for communication, paired particles that can transmit information instantly across any distance. It's supposed to be impossible to hack." "But you found a way?" Taman asked. "Not to hack it, but I found a way to introduce noise into the system. Random particles scattered across their communication frequency. It won't break their communications, but it will make them unreliable. Delays, errors, corrupted messages." Taman considered this. An enemy who couldn't communicate properly couldn't coordinate. "How long to implement?" "It's already done," Minji said with a slight smile. "I've been broadcasting the interference for the last 10 minutes. Aboard the Vectari flagship, Thulrek was experiencing exactly what Dr. Minji intended. His orders to the fleet were being received with delays or errors. Reports from his ships contradicted each other. The quantum network he had relied on for instant, perfect communication was failing. "What is happening?" he demanded. "This system has never failed before." His science officer checked the readings. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual quantum activity. Someone is flooding our communication bands with random entangled particles. It's creating interference we can't filter out." Thulrek felt a chill. The humans had somehow found a way to attack quantum communication. These primitives, who should have been easy prey, were using technology and tactics he'd never seen before. Specialist Jiwoo, still working from her dark room on Earth, took advantage of the chaos in the Vectari network. With their quantum communication disrupted, they had fallen back on conventional radio. That was something she could hack easily. She sent false orders to Vectari squadrons, directing them away from each other. She fed fake sensor data showing human ships where there were none. She created confusion and fear with just a keyboard and brilliant understanding of their systems. The Vectari fleet began to fragment. Ships broke away into small groups, each one acting independently because they couldn't trust their orders. Some retreated toward the edge of the solar system. Others tried to regroup. A few, desperate and angry, made suicide runs toward Earth. Commander Yuna's defense fleet dealt with the suicide ships. Her vessels were battered and low on ammunition, but her crews fought with the desperation of people defending their home. Every Vectari ship that tried to reach Earth died before it got close. Pilot Sung-ho was still in the fight, though his fighter was held together mostly by hope and emergency sealant. He had been flying for 8 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and adrenaline. His squadron had started with 20 fighters. Now there were 6. He spotted a Vectari cruiser trying to sneak toward Earth using the debris field as cover. "This is Sung-ho." "I have 1 missile left. I'm taking that cruiser." "Sung-ho, pull back," came the order from Fleet Command. "You're too damaged." "Let someone else," but Sung-ho had already committed to his attack run. He dove toward the cruiser, his damaged fighter shaking from the stress. The Vectari ship's point defense opened fire, but Sung-ho flew like he was part of the machine, dodging with impossible precision. He launched his last missile at point-blank range, then pulled up hard. The G-forces made his vision gray at the edges. The missile struck home and the cruiser split in two. Sung-ho's fighter finally gave up. Systems failed across the board. He was drifting, powerless but alive. "This is Sung-ho." I'm done flying for today. Someone want to pick me up? A recovery ship was already on its way. Commander Thulrek looked at what remained of his fleet. He had started this battle with over 8,000 ships. Now he had less than 4,000, scattered across the solar system, unable to communicate properly, demoralized and broken. He had conquered 200 worlds. He had faced energy weapons, antimatter bombs, biological warfare. But he had never faced an enemy like humanity. An enemy that turned silence into a weapon. An enemy that used simple physics as a tool of mass destruction. An enemy that seemed to think everything, from rocks to radio waves, was just another way to kill. Recall all ships, he ordered. We regroup at the edge of the solar system, and we prepare for one final assault. We throw everything at Earth, either we win or we die trying. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if winning was possible anymore.